and it was the second time that I've been to this university. The first time that I went there, I was met with a group of over 40 student protesters. Now, all of these protesters happen to be white, and I don't consider that to be particularly important, but when they're calling me a white supremacist, it becomes a little bit more important to the story there. So I came to tell my story of growing up in a radical leftist household and somehow getting out of it and realizing that maybe I had ideas that were antithetical to what I had been taught. And they were not happy about it whatsoever. These protesters gathered out front, and me, a lone woman, went and confronted them trying to have civil discourse. And luckily, I got all of this on tape trying to talk to these people, and it went on for 40 minutes. And the best argument that these young people made was collectively screaming SpaghettiOs at me. And again, this is all on video. And we got it and put it out on the internet. So 20 million people got to see what we're faced with when it comes to stepping on university campuses. And for some reason, a year later, I was invited back. So a few weeks ago now, I went back to Winona State University, and in the weeks leading up to the event, a letter to the editor went out in the campus newspaper. Now, this letter was not written by the students at the university. It was actually written by the Faculty Association. And the Faculty Association had written in this letter to the editor that me, a 22-year-old woman, posed a dangerous threat by being on this campus, and that they stood in solidarity with every single faculty member, administrator, professor, and student who did not want to be on campus on the day that I arrived. Now, mind you, this speech was at nighttime, not even during school hours, but professors all across the campus and students decided to stand. I'd like to say it's because they dealt with that confrontation the year prior that I was there and wasn't ready to deal with that again. But when I arrived on the campus, I was met with chalk messages written all over the sidewalks. I was called a Nazi, which is new for being a biracial female, the first of its kind, I guess. I was called a pedophile, a groomer, a fascist, and in bright, big chalk letters walking into the event, they wrote, "Make fascists afraid again." So this is what young people are dealing with on college campuses now. Places that are supposed to be promoting a liberal education, of free thought, and challenging your ideas actually have faculty members and professors staying away from school when a speaker comes to challenge their ideology. So every day at Prageru, we're trying to talk to young people, and we're trying to open their minds. You're responsible for reaching me. When I was around 18 years old, I was pulled over by a police officer. And in my history, with what I had been taught at home and at school and with the news, I thought my life was going to end. And of course, in retrospect, that is really irrational. But at the time, it wasn't funny at all. And I was crying and breaking down into tears as a white male cop approached my car, and I thought, this is my worst nightmare. And many of you know this story, but this cop told me something very important. He said, "Ma'am, I am not here to hurt you." And I like to think that he recognized maybe what I was seeing at the time on the news and maybe how I viewed his profession, and maybe he didn't. But that sentence became really important. And I thought to myself, either A, I just met the one good cop in America, or B, somebody's lied to me. And I went to the internet, not to challenge what I believed, but to reinforce what I had already thought. That this country's racist, the police are racist, and a video popped up called "Cops Are the Good Guys." And I thought, this is gonna be racist, click. And 5 minutes later, I had gotten through the message from a black sheriff by the name of Sheriff David Clark. And I thought, if I'm wrong about this, what else am I wrong about? And I went down this rabbit hole of Prageru 5-minute videos. I then found Tom Sowell, I found Larry Elder, I found Dave Rubin, and all these great thinkers. And I'm very, very lucky to have had that experience. And I feel as though it's an experience that so many young people are being robbed of in today's day and age. Had I never been challenged, I would have been miserable. I was depressed, I was anxious, I was waking up every day working for this left-leaning organization, knocking doors, looking at the world through the lens of injustice. And when you look at the world through the lens of injustice, you will find it everywhere you look. I am now such a happy and positive, fulfilled person, and it just pains me to think about my old self and how angry I was every single day. And where there is one me, there is millions of other young people who are experiencing this day in and day out. So, that's not the most hopeful message. Let's line that with a bit of hope and a little silver lining. I do have a show now with Prageru called Unapologetic Live. Because where I am not a fascist, I am also not afraid, and I hope none of you in this room are either. And I want to give you some hard numbers about how this show is doing, and particularly with young people. So 70% of our audience is under the age of 34. We've amassed over 150 million views since we started the channel, and that channel started in March of this year. 33 million unique viewers who are new to the entire Prageru experience and have never heard of Prageru before, and 60% of those, after finding an unapologetic episode, went on to watch other Prageru content. I truly believe that Gen Z should not be given up on. They are very thirsty for these ideas once they find them. The issue is they are surrounded and safeguarded, I don't even know if we want to call it safeguarded at this point because it's truly harming them, by these institutions that want to starve their brains from being challenged. And now I tell people when they watch my show, I don't care, I don't want you to come out of this and be a conservative. All I want you to do is know that you can challenge your beliefs. That's all that I want from you. And when I speak to people, I'm not speaking from the perspective of myself now, I'm trying to speak to my former self. And I'm trying to reach them with compassion. And if my story is organization and how many lives you truly change, I want to talk about a letter that I received about a week ago now from a young girl named Summer, who is 15 years old. And she wrote a 4-page letter to me about finding this show. Summer stated that she's raised by 2 conservative parents, and she's very lucky to be raised by those parents, and that she was sheltered by her parents. She writes in the letter, "The first time I heard a swear word was when I was on the school bus headed to 6th grade." And she said that when she started going to middle school, she was inundated with left-leaning ideology from her peers and her friends and her teachers at this institution. And it led to her going down this rabbit hole of leftism, of believing that she was oppressed and that she was victimized, and not only that, hating her parents is what she wrote in this letter. So years go by of her in this public institution, recognizing, she goes on the internet, and she actually stumbled across one of my episodes, and this is not to take credit for it because I think there are so many other beautiful conservative minds that they can find on the internet, but she found one of my videos and watched it, and she said it was the first time that she felt comfortable challenging her beliefs, and it was the first time that she was encouraged by somebody to actually speak to her friends about having a dissident opinion. And for respect of your time, I'll end this speech with reading the words that Summer wrote. She says, "You've saved me from being dragged down deeper into this rabbit hole. After watching your videos, I'm better at thinking for myself rather than just believing whatever my friends and my teachers are telling me. I have even been able to have friendly debates with my friends and on certain controversial topics. Thank you so much for the influence you have had on my life. Sincerely, Summer."